Welcome to CGTN. We are live at the China International Consumer Products Expo in Hainan Province, and I'm Sirui. And this is the third of a series of roundtable discussion at the Expo. Today we're going to talk about the growing market for French cosmetics and other everyday consumer products in China. And joining me today are two of my guests. Ms. Hainan, she's the CEO of French skincare company called Deli in China, and also Mr. Maxime Schmidt. He is the brand representative for CICPE Paris, a French tableware company. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Yes. So before we start our discussion, let's give a little bit of overview of our businesses in China. So let me start with Ms. Hainan. What proportion of Caudaly's business is conducted in China, and how has Caudaly performed so far?
Well, Caudaly is, we would say that's a small but very pretty company. And we are not a big group, but we are independent family company, and it's a small, but in terms of the distribution in China, we are very full in full China. We are on B2B business, B2C business, online, offline. So you can find our product in Sephora channel. You can find our product in Tmall, JD, and even WeChat store. So we are present everywhere, but till now it's not very big because it's in terms of size we are not very big, but we are present everywhere. Till now we performed. I have to say that till last year it was not good because we have been impacted very much by the pandemic. But the good news is that from this year, especially from the Q1, we see the recovery. And till now, and we are very amazing to see that, in fact, it's for the first time from, well, I would say 2-3 years, we achieved our budget. Oh. As a CEO of the company, I'm very proud because it's really very depressive to see that I cannot achieve the budget from several years, and this year, wow, and it's really a very good recovery.
Yeah. So far, how do you feel about the expo?
Oh, the expo. In fact, it's the second time there we are participating in this expo, and today I'm a little bit late because in the stand there are so much people there, in fact. We see also a big recovery comparing last year. Last year, we are still have some constraints about the COVID. We have to do the PCR test every day to come into, and now it's a free world, and we see our partners worldwide, and also consumers come to us. Even a lot of brands, friends, and also distributors, they come from Shanghai. I'm based in Shanghai, and we meet here in Hainan thanks to this expo. Till now, I think that it's above our expectation because and this year we have widened our stand. We have make a bigger stand, and we taken more space, and we have brought more products to this expo. And it's a higher end and a larger size.
That's good. And what about you, Mr. Schmidt? I know that CICPE Paris has just entered China like 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. So far, what is your experience in China's market?
Actually, our products are available in China since 2019. So we were here a little bit before the pandemic. But in 2021, we start to open the first Tmall platform for SAB. And despite the pandemic and the difficulties, our brand became more and more popular on Chinese market. So we are very satisfied with it. And maybe one of the reasons is people who cannot travel at this time want to bring a small piece of France to their home.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the expo?
The expo is a good opportunity for us to communicate with our customer, whether reseller or direct customer, and to have the opportunity to meet them face to face, to discuss with them, and to share some time with our customers.
So now let's talk about some of your observations about China's market. I'll also still start with Caudalie. So Caudalie has entered China for over a decade ago, and from your perspective, how has the Chinese cosmetics and skincare market has changed over the years?
Over the years, we do observe that this market is becoming more rational, I would say.
Okay.
Because everyone knows that China is a big market, and in the beginning, 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago, the market was active, and it was competitive, but at that time, I think that it's easier. It was easier because at that moment, the Chinese consumer facing to foreign brands, especially the French brand like Caudalie, they know that it's famous in France, and they want to discover. And so, as a foreign brand, we had naturally an advantage. But now the market is very rational. The Chinese consumer, for sure they will look for the branding side, but they look for also the content to see that what's the ingredient behind these brands, what's the real value of these brands. So we see that in social media, it's very developed in all the ingredient analysis, and a lot of social media like Xiaohongshu and the KOL, even KOC, and they present their as consumer experience. So now we have to pay more attention and on the CRM part to explain more our product. And this, comparing 10 years ago, I think a lot of Chinese brands have been well grown up, developed. So it's a fair market, and we observe that it's not our competition. Not only become foreign brands, but also Chinese brands who are in the same, almost in the same level now.
Yeah. So how has the Chinese woman's understanding of skincare changed over the years? Do you think any difference?
Yes. Chinese women now, especially the young generation, I think the young generation, they look for not only the cosmetic as its own, as itself as its own, but also the value behind. For example, they pay a lot of attention on the sustainability and the value behind this cosmetic. They refuse something that is not to just buy some expensive things, but they do for this brand, if this company is developing some sustainable thing. But I think that it's very good for brands like Caudalie, because we are a clean cosmetic. We are in the niche of the clean beauty from the beginning, from our DNA. It's not for trendy, but from the beginning, Caudalie comes from vineyard of Bordeaux in France. So our brand behind is that we are efficient for any skincare problem, and also we are natural, and we are sustainable.
Yes, so overall, our generation is becoming more rational, as you just mentioned. Yes. So, Mr. Schmidt, my question for you is, so certainly in China, we use chopsticks and other type of Chinese utensils more often than Western style of knives and forks. Yeah. So, who are your target, who are buying your products, and how big is the market?
Actually, it's a fact, chopsticks are more popular in Asia, not only China, but there is a big demand, growing demand for our product. Our customer can be whether some Chinese people who already travel to France or study there and live there sometimes, and after went back to China, and they want to find the experience they had when they went to France. or some people who are just kitchenware fans, or who want to experience some other lifestyle. And we are happy to share this with them.
Okay. So when it comes to like people's shopping habits, so where do people, this is a question for both of you, so where do your buyers buy your stuff usually, and how big a role do you think China's online selling platforms are playing in your business? Maybe I start with Hainan. Yeah.
Okay, as I said, that in fact during pandemic periods, our offline business has been very heavily impacted. But fortunately, we have online business and it's largely compensated. So till now, our online business represents more than 60% of our business. I think it's rather big. In the beginning of our strategy, it was not designed like that. We thought that we would make half, but in China, online business is really playing a big part of the business.
Is China maybe the second market for Kodali, or the first market, like biggest one?
Unfortunately, no, but I think that we are the high potential.
Okay.
The high potential because curiously for Kodali, in fact, we are well present in Europe. Europe in pharmacy, we are in a lot of SKU gum, for example, the skincare for the anti-aging, for the anti-dash whitening, something like that, and it's number one. And in USA, we are very well developed also, but curiously for China, we are still remain smooth, but a market like China, we should not be like that. I think we can be bigger like that. And my objective and the objective, I think, of our company is that we will become the #1 international behind France. That should be the statue of China. But till now, we are not yet that. We are behind Europe. We are behind the USA.
It still takes some time.
It will take some time, and but as China team, we want to be the #1.
Okay. Yeah.
It's my objective. It's China team's objective.
Yeah, that's
everybody's
good.
objective.
Yes.
Yeah. So what about Mr. Schmidt? So what about your online business selling, or where can I buy your product?
You can buy online on Tmall platform, and we have also some channel distributors, resellers. But definitely the biggest channel for us is also online market, which I think is a trend in China. The online is more and more popular for Chinese people. But we also have some objective to go closer to the customer and to share with them. So as people had some lockdown with pandemic and so on, we will open soon, very soon, our first offline store in Chengdu. So people will be able to go to offline flag store for Sabre in Chengdu. This will be the first one, and maybe in the future some other big city will have.
Okay. Right, so let's move on to the challenges of doing business in China, and these questions are also for both of you. So the first one, you have mentioned the impact of COVID. So what impact has the COVID pandemic had on your business? And also, how have conditions changed since the pandemic restrictions were eased internationally and in China? Maybe start with Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah. So actually, despite the lockdowns that happened and the pandemics, we are actually happy that our brand became more and more popular in China market those past years. And for the pandemic's difficulties we met, is actually for the logistic, we had to anticipate a bit more for the orders and importation, but know that everything is everything is speed up as always in China, and
Yes, so I also have another question. Like, why did you choose to enter China at like 2019 at such a difficult time?
Actually, I think in 2019, no one in the world would have expected the 2020. So we start to have some distributor in China, and with the pandemic, maybe we search more stability and on our markets, and so we try to have in China more like Tmall and more, let's say official channel under our name. And
oh, okay. So so was it like?
And the demand was also here, so Chinese people wanted our product.
Yeah. So, but in the very first place, how did you? What makes you feel like I can bring my products into the China's market?
I think we had to. It's like a lot of Chinese people were sometimes going to our booth in Europe. We saw that they had some demand, and people were. So we decided to go closer to the market.
Is there an amount, like for example, so far, how many of your products are transported in China or are sold in China? Is there a number?
Pure in number, actually, China became very quickly one of the top 5 market for Sab Paris.
Okay.
So the demand is here, and.
All right. So, Ms. Li, can you tell us more, share more about the impact of COVID pandemic on your business in China?
Yeah. Last year, in fact, we have lost almost 20% of our sales. In fact, in 2022, I think it's the average percentage in cosmetic industry. We have seen other brands. It's almost 20% for quarterly is still good performance during that period. But China team was very reactive. We have to survive, and it's really to survive. And we have moved our supply chain function to Shanghai, and we have opened several warehouse during the pandemic to be sure that if one place is locked down, we can still send in our product from another warehouse. So it's playing the probability, and we trying to, even during last year during pandemic and everybody was working from home, we have launched our new product with work from home. So I think in this digital period, everything is possible. We have also give more focus on CRM and to be sure that we are, as a brand, we can be reaching our customer online. Otherwise, they cannot see us in the boutique. But they can buy our products online, and they can reach us via CRM function.
Yeah. So maybe before the pandemic, did you have like factories or production lines in China?
Now, our Godali products are produced in France. So in China, it's imported. But at that moment, before pandemic, our warehouse partly in Shenzhen. So now it's moved to Jiaxing, just near Shanghai.
Okay, that's good. So also, let's talk about your expectations of China's market. French President Emmanuel Macron signed a series of cooperation agreements during his recent visit in China. So it's been suggested that this would ultimately lead to more cooperation between China and European Union. So as companies who have like significant interest in China, how do you reflect on Macron's visit in China? Maybe start with Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah. So I think having a president visit and Macron in China is always a positive thing. It's a boost for, I think, both economy. Having more agreement is between France and China, is both good, I think, for Chinese and for French. and cooperation brings some positive.
Okay, what about Ms. Lee?
Yeah, I think it's a very good news for all French community in China, for French companies, especially for cosmetic, because fashion cosmetic is the first France is the first exporter of the cosmetic product. So we are in this line. And in France, there's cosmetic volley, and there are a lot of cosmetic companies together. So I think it's a very good future for us to be focused on China market, and knowing that Chinese consumer love France, love French lifestyle, and Caudalie is one of these representative of French lifestyle, I think.
Yeah. So we can now talk about some of the, for example, the challenges of doing business in China besides the pandemic, because I forgot to discuss this question. Now I have to come back to this part. So far, what do you see is the biggest barriers of doing business in China?
I think for the barrier, it's maybe about understanding of each other's, and if people don't understand the purchasing habit of one country or another, can make some difficulties to enter. So with the further collaboration and finding the right person for example, distribution in the country who can both understand, for example, Chinese distributor who can have a good understanding from the French culture, the French product, but who also know the Chinese market, know the Chinese culture, the Chinese habits. I think some people who are able to make a bridge between the two countries can help to face those barriers.
Yeah, I think you are talking about that we need more experience, need more interactions with each other. So maybe in the future we'll get more familiar, and then there'll be less problems. And what about Ms. Lee?
For cosmetic product, it's very specific. Is that because we need registration process before coming to China. So in terms of information, in fact, now it's very transparent. Chinese consumer, when they see on the net, they know what's the new launching in France and what's the new launching in other markets. But to find this product in China, and this will need some time. And so that there's a gap between information and physically the product is in this market. That's why we are here in this Hainan Expo. Products that are not yet registered in China, and to touch Chinese consumer and to know that if they like them or not. And all the registration process is very long and very expensive. So if it's we are not sure it will be a success or not, so we have to make some pre-testing before. Another barrier, but I think it's a barrier not only to cosmetic but to everybody, is that China is no more cheap country. In fact, all the marketing, especially digital marketing, is very expensive. And comparing France, I think China is not less expensive. And this part, locally, we understand, but maybe for our colleagues in France or in other countries, the several years they have not yet come to China. Maybe they still keep a mind to say that China may be not so expensive, but we are expensive now, right? We're expensive now, and fortunately, with this the normal COVID constraints, our headquarter colleagues, even our founders, has come to China, and they begin to know more about China market. I think that it will be very helpful.
Okay, so in the future, do you think how Chinese companies or China and European can help each other for its economic recovery? How to cooperate with each other? Maybe.
I think with probably building a deeper understanding of each each other, and the company's values can sometimes from one country to another, as you actually previously explained. Even for one same company as Caudalie, the understanding between France and China need, I think, better working on the understanding of each other, and it will help to build, I think, from my point of view, some trust, which is something also very important today. And with time, I think time is also something important to build this trust and this cooperation. And as for SAB, we also care a lot about our customers, our Chinese customers, and we want to be able to offer them a new experience and proposing them some more options to enjoy life. And for us, it's a French kitchenware product, which is today like 30 years old brand, so well established. And one of the principles of our company is to have traditionally made fork, knives, spoon, but to bring a modern touch with a lot of colors. So if we can bring a more colorful life to Chinese people with what we are able to offer, will be a pleasure.
Yeah, that's a very nice way to put it. What about Ms. Li?
For me, I think that two countries are like two different people, and we are good at different things. China market, we are very good at digital part, and this part is very advanced in comparing France. So I think that France, we can learn from this part. But on the contrary, for example, for the things like I take the example of the Caudalie, we are a clean beauty, and we have begun this process from 2006, and we see that this notion are just very trendy from last year. But in Europe market, we have been studying this practice from more than 10 years. So we can bring our best practice on the thing that's not yet very familiar with Chinese consumer. But on the other side, we come here to discover all the digital things that we don't have in France and in Europe.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So
thank you.
Thank you very. Yeah. So we've had a very insightful discussion today, and I hope our audience would have enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. And I want to thank again Mr. Maxime Schmidt from the brand representative of CICPE Paris, and also Ms. Li Haiyan, China CEO of Caudalie. And so thank you again for your time and your insights. And tomorrow, in the last of our roundtable discussions, my colleague Sandy Huang will talk to the companies from Switzerland about their experiences of doing business in China and also their expectations of the expo. So join us again at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.